I didn't get much time off after.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, welcome in.
Oh, hey, hey, hey. Yo, yo, yo. It's me, Valerie. Am I too early?
Nope, you are right on time. We'll be getting started in about 5 minutes.
Oh, that's exciting.
I'm glad that you're excited. Thank you for coming.
Oh, I knew I would come. I wouldn't miss this. I just got home. I just got home. I'm so happy that I made it. I'm loving the musical background.
Trying to create the vibes for the room. I'm glad that you're here.
Well,
Thank you for engaging with us. Go ahead and tell us where you're tuning in from.
I am from Brooklyn, New York.
Shout out to BK.
BK in the house.
BK all day.
All day, all night. You know, I think Brooklyn has to be the best borough in New York.
All right, we're not going to get into turf wars in here today.
I will let it go this time. Okay.
just for today.
Just
for
for
the
today.
sake of this event.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Wow. Where are you calling from? How far are you?
I am actually in Atlanta.
Oh, that's my go-to place. I plan on visiting soon.
Yeah, that's typically how it goes. Either Brooklyn or Atlanta. That's where people migrate to.
Absolutely.
Hi, Michelle. Good to see you here. Thank you.
Hey, Michelle. How you doing, my darling? Oh, I thought Michelle came in. Okay.
She's talking in the chat if you want to talk to her there.
Okay, no.
We'll get started.
Hi, everyone. I can't really keep my mic on because my grandbaby is here, and then she gets,
Your beautiful grandbaby. Oh,
we'll get started in about 2 minutes, everyone. If you are in the room and you haven't gotten your book next to you, I've got mine sitting next to me. Go ahead and grab it. I know the screen is merging into the screen, but go ahead and grab it. You're going to need it for our experience today. So glad that you're here. Put your book right beside you. Go ahead and pick out your favorite passage. We're going to get into that soon as well. Let us know where you're calling in from. Where are you today? We'll get started in about 2 minutes.
Gotta tell people it start at 2:58. I mean, at 2:50, but it's at 3 o'clock.
We're going to go ahead and get started. All right. Hello, 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 everyone. I'm so glad that you are here today. I realize you cannot see me because I'm super small, so I'm going to add myself to the spotlight. Hi, how are you? My name is Kayla Life, and I am the founder of the Rebrand Creative Agency, aka Rebrandland. We're in short, we build and brand for social good. I am so honored to be here with you guys today. I'm in honor of Dr. Senya Barnes. I've known Senya since 2017, before we even knew that business was a thing. We've been rocking together since then. I'm so glad to be here in support of her. If you need me, I am your technical guide. So if you're having technical issues, the chat's not working, you don't know how to unmute yourself, that's when you'll plug me in. I am going to ask during this time that everyone mutes themselves. If you would like to come on camera, you can. You don't have to at this portion, but I will tell you to go ahead and get camera ready because we will be taking a picture at the end of it. So we're so glad to have you here. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our host for today, Miss Karen Carrillo. Hello, Miss Karen. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. So we are going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to pull up her bio here so you guys can get to know a little bit more about who is in this room with you. If you don't know anything about networking, every opportunity is an opportunity. So go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat as I introduce Miss Karen Carrillo. So Karen Carrillo is a Brooklyn, New York based author and frequent speaker on African American and Afro Latino history and politics. Her news and reporting has widened knowledge about Black communities in America and has won awards from from the New York Association of Black Journalists, New California Media Awards, and the National Newspaper Publishers Association. Carrillo is the co-founder of a website called afropresencia.org, which I also placed in the chat for you guys to get into, which she started to help promote and promote the dissemination of information about Afro descendants in the Americas. Afropresencia is a United Nations accredited NGO. One of its tasks is to help organize grassroots groups that work together to provide aid to people of African descent. So presenting Ms. Karen Carrillo.
Thank you. Thank you, Kayla. Thank you for having me here with you, Dr. Barnes. So we're here for this wonderful event, this virtual book event. Thank you all for showing up. Brief summary about Triumph in the Trenches. Dr. Senya Barnes is a social and behavioral scientist, award-winning author, and dynamic keynote speaker with over 20 years of experience empowering survivors of trauma, including domestic abuse, violence, and long-term illness. Her life's mission is to help individuals and institutions break free from the grip of trauma and reclaim agency, authenticity, and purpose. She's currently pursuing her PhD in advanced human behavior. Dr. Barnes blends academic research with real-world experience to deliver transformative presentations and community interventions. Her work explores the intersection of trauma, leadership, and resilience with a focus on creating inclusive, healing-centered spaces. Dr. Barnes is the visionary behind the Trauma to Triumph Transformation Model. It's a groundbreaking framework designed to build individual strength while disrupting systemic inequities. She's a sought-after speaker in spaces focused on leadership development, workplace culture, mental wellness, and justice reform. So this is her latest co-authored release. It's called Triumph in the Trenches, Volume 2. It challenges the culture of silence in institutions from corporate boardrooms to churches and equips readers with actionable tools to drive change. I hope you all have had the chance to read the book. I was able to go through it in 2 days, 2 or 3 days actually. And it was very enlightening, brought back a lot of memories, let's say, for me in a lot of these spaces that, I work at a majority Black institution, but even there, you have times where you have discomfort, and it was very interesting to and I guess somewhat comforting to realize that you're not going through this alone. Other people go through this and have figured out ways to deal with it. That was one of the best parts away from the book. So, Dr. Barnes is more than an author. She's a force. For over 2 decades, she's been transforming lives through her relentless commitment to healing, justice, and empowerment. In a world where silence is often demanded and systems prioritize conformity over truth, Dr. Barnes gives voice to the unheard. Her work sits at the powerful intersection of trauma and transformation, offering not just validation for those who've endured harm, but a clear pathway forward. Triumph in the Trenches, Volume 2 is not just a book, it's a call to action. It challenges institutions to do better, equips leaders with tools to lead with integrity, and reminds us all that our stories, especially the painful ones, have power. This conversation matters because healing is a collective art. And today we're honored to hold space with someone who is truly reshaping how we talk about trauma, resilience, and truth in our communities and workplaces. So it's my honor to introduce our author and trailblazer, Dr. Xenia Barnes. And let's dive into the story. Are you ready?
Be ready. Let's go. Thank you, everyone. I'm so happy to be here and have you here with me in this space. So whenever you're ready to kick off the questions, I'm ready to fire off answers.
All right. So let's start with what inspired you to write Triumph in the Trenches, Volume 2.
Um, well, I was definitely a part of Volume 1, and that was my first segue into writing an anthology. And when the opportunity came around for Volume 2, I wanted to not only share about navigating these spaces as a Black author, as a Black social behavior scientist, but actually as someone who's a neurodivergent who have an invisible disability is often pushed to the side. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to share the experience from that perspective. What does it look like to be in these spaces as someone who suffers with an invisible disability? And just let people know that they're, like you said, they're not alone. Often we go through different challenges and feel like we're going through them by ourselves. And so it's so easy to feel like giving up when you feel like you're handling something so huge alone.
Yeah, so how did you coin this trauma to triumph transformational model? What does it mean and how can people use it?
That's such a great question. So I coined the trauma to triumph based off of my experience, navigating through that space of being in a dark place, navigating through different challenges with my health, with grief, with the changing shift from being forced out of my role as an educator, as a school administrator, to then what does my life look like now, and not giving up. And so, and to do that, I started thinking about how do I start over how do I start over and make sense of what I'm going through? Um, am I the only person that's going through this? And if not, then where is my tribe? And so, in doing that, I decided to pull the formula that I was working off from trauma to triumph because I wanted to show individuals or create a framework for individuals to know that they're not their trauma, and they are the best person to tell their story so that they can begin to move forward. That's why it's called From Trauma to Triumph, because it's a way to use what you've been through to know that something good can come over from starting over.
Is there a time frame for how that model works?
There is no there is no time frame because each individual is a work in progress. So my time frame would work for me may not be, we're not all in the same space. So what took me something to go through, and I want to say I'm still working through it, but for the better part of it, 4 to 5 years, someone else it may take longer. It all depends on what their trauma was and what they've gone through. But it also depends on your ability to identify who's your tribe, um, who are the people you need to disconnect from because of the people that we all have roadblocks in people who serve a purpose in our life for a certain amount of time. And not everybody's meant to go on your journey. So it's about moving and navigating. Let's say, even if you experiencing a divorce, there's trauma in that. There's trauma in that. You're grieving a relationship. You're grieving years that you spent with someone, and so and that being said, there's a space and a time that you have to process and go through that. And those are your trenches. Your trenches are the challenges that you're experiencing. Your triumph is being able to look back, reflect, and understand that it's okay to close one door so that you can open.
Yeah. So in a way, there's no endpoint of the triumph. The triumph is a process.
The triumph is a process. The triumph is a process. You will triumph in so many different ways, whether it is triumphing through, okay, I found a new job and I'm okay with this and I'm feeling good about this. That's a triumph. Whether it is, I had to move out of my house. I lost my apartment. I lost my house. And now I found this new apartment. I'm starting fresh. That's a triumph because you could be in the space where you have nowhere to go. You have nowhere to go. And it's like, so what does that look like in there? That's a trench. That's a trench because in that time you're trying to figure out your next move and how to navigate. So once you accomplish one challenge, take the small win. Take the small win. And that's what the framework From Trauma to Triumph about. It's about acknowledging the small wins and finding the glory in that and not so much focusing on the challenge.
Mm-hmm. So the book spans systems like churches, hospitals, and law enforcement. Why this wide lens and why was that important for you?
So the book is actually an anthology, so it's a collective of different authors, and each author speaks about their challenges in their own right. So for the law enforcement, we have someone who went through challenges as an officer, as a police officer, and what it was like for her navigating through that space. And the common thread throughout the book, I would like to say, is invisibility. Common thread is invisibility because although we are all in different spaces, churches, corporate, nonprofit, education, we all found some type of way or we experienced something that made us feel invisible. And we had to figure out, how do we speak up, speak out, and choose to either stay or leave. And that's a major part of navigating through trauma, understanding that it's time to go, or is this something that I'm willing to stay here and work through?
Yeah, that's interesting. That was one of the other things I liked about the book was those different viewpoints, the law enforcement person, the person in the organization. Everybody has different issues that the invisibility, we might not see it, but they're all dealing with these traumas in different ways. And we have to recognize that a lot of times. But you also talked about your own experience. How did that influence your voice in the book?
So that's another great question. Oh, we're getting deep, huh? Okay, so I would say with my own experience and navigating with my being diagnosed with a terminal illness, if I do not have my oxygen on, you cannot tell that I am fully disabled. So that's why I like to call it an invisible disability because I don't always have to have my oxygen on unless I'm going to be talking like I am doing now. But I also need a double lung transplant. And so for me, it was that space of navigating through when I first was diagnosed, the challenge of wanting to show up and be at work all the time, but recognizing that I couldn't be there to the capacity that others wanted me to be there. So I was diagnosed during COVID, and during that time, we were just coming out of COVID, and during that time, we were going through the being able to work hybrid, and those who had underlying conditions had to work remotely. And what I noticed is that there became this divide of those who were uh, working remotely and those who were working in person. And that was going through that experience where I felt like I had to constantly fight and explain why I couldn't be in person and how triggering that experience was for me, constantly having to update doctors note, constantly have to re retell my story of what I'm going through. When I could very well do my work from home, but I had someone who wanted me to be in person. So it was their preference for me to be in person versus them putting my health at the forefront of it. And going through that experience, I recognized that there were so many other people who were fighting this battle, and I wanted to share in this book about how holistically it takes a toll on you when you have an invisible disability. It takes a toll on you when you have a disability that everyone can see, but there's a special toll or even deeper toll that holds on you when you're someone who is battling depression, when you're someone who's battling an autoimmune immune disease, when you're someone who is battling something that other people can't see, so they judge you for the sense of the fact that they can't see it. It's almost like they want you to wear your disability so that they can feel comfortable about you being disabled. And that's what my chapter is about. My chapter is about navigating through that space and understanding that you don't owe an explanation of your needs to other people because they lack the understanding. But my framework from trauma to triumph, the leadership model is to train leadership teams and organizations of how to navigate and support someone who has an invisible disability so that they can show up and be who they are and get the work done that they need to get done without feeling like they're not enough.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, that's it, particularly that situation now with the debate between going back to in-person work or working remotely. Um, and I know that even at our newspaper, we had that issue of whether we were going to be in office or not, and whether I guess in general there's this idea of whether that affects the corporate atmosphere. How do you talk with leadership about a corporate culture idea of we all have to be doing this and being able to bring in people who aren't going to be part of this?
And so for that, it's a mindset thing. It's a mindset shift. Um, I always say the change is change is the greatest threat to people who are comfortable with conformity. And people are often so comfortable with the things that they already know that any type of sense of being different it makes them rattle. And we have to learn, just like life adjusts, we have to learn how to adjust as individuals. And so for when I'm working with different leaders and organizations, it's all about going through, it's all about going through a laundry list of what are the things that your company actually needs, what are the things that you want, and where is the areas of growth where you can meet people where they are. And once you can do that, then you can narrow down the people on your team of like the work that has to be like definitely hands on, and then the work that can be done remotely. And understanding that just because someone is remote doesn't mean that they're not working. I think that for most people, they feel like, again, just like with the invisible disability, they feel like if they can't see you doing something, then you're doing nothing. And that's such a misconception, because what I found that many people are more productive working remotely than they were when they were working in person.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so that's the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is understanding who you have working for you, and then understanding like what's being done. What are you putting out as in terms of workplace culture? Because it starts from the top, it doesn't start from the bottom. And workplace culture plays such a huge role in productivity. Because if you don't have a strong workplace culture, and I don't mean by icebreakers and us going to hang out happy hour afterwards. I think people have this idea that we all must be friends in order for us to have good workplace culture. That's not what good workplace culture is. Good workplace culture is understanding that someone needs space today and allowing them to have space. Good workplace culture is understanding that right now might not be the best time or space to have this discussion. So we're going to have it at a later time. Good workplace culture also means having uncomfortable conversations, but also ensuring that you're actively listening and not just listening to respond. Because if you don't do those things, then you create psychological safety issues where people feel like their voice is muffled, they feel like they're on mute, and then you have people showing up to work unhappy, and they're just doing the bare minimum because it's like, I'm just here to get my check, and after that I'm clocking out. And if you want people to show up and be productive, then they have to feel like they're seen, they have to feel like they're heard, and they have to feel like they're valued.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Uh, talk about that later. Um, so you talk about authentic leadership. What does that look like in practice?
Now that right there is, I like to say that's a tough one, and that takes a little time because I went and I talked about this in another book I did called The Courageous Pursuit of Authenticity. Um, there is a time and a place for different authenticities, and I explain this in that book when I say you have your professional authentic self and you have your personal authentic self. And your company or your job, leadership wants you to show up as your professional authentic self, but sometimes they blur the lines. And when I say they blur the lines, they make this blanket statement of show up and be the person and be your authentic self. But and in that sense, I feel like that's when they're using it as a microaggression, because I want you to be authentic enough to where you don't make me uncomfortable, but you're just enough that you align with this vision or this idea that I have. And so when I'm working with leadership teams, and I say, well, you have this statement when you say show up with your authentic self. What does that look like to you? And that's a conversation that you really need to have when you're training people. What does authenticity look like to you? Because it's wrapped up in corporations, authenticity is wrapped up in the brand of a company, right? It's wrapped up in the brand of a company. So you can be authentic enough that match my brand. But if you don't wear your hair a certain way, if you don't dress a certain way, then that and that aligns to this brand, then you're not being authentic to the brand. And so when I say your professional authentic self, it means you come and you show up to be the person who is here to do whatever the job is to get done, but do it to the best of your ability, to where you're not changing yourself, but you also need to know that your personal authenticity, that is something that you share. That's something people have to earn. That's something that you share with your loved ones. That's something that you share with your friends. You don't have the same discourse with your boss that you have with your cousins and your sisters and your other loved ones. You don't have that same discourse. You don't have the same interactions with coworkers that you have after hours with your friends. And here's the reason why. The moment you make them uncomfortable, they will remind you that they're your boss. They will remind you that you're not my friend, you're just a coworker. Everything is okay. Your authenticity to them is okay as long as it doesn't make them uncomfortable. The moment you make someone uncomfortable, they feel like, I don't feel like you're being authentic. Or I don't feel like you, or what you said it hurt my feelings. So I feel like you're not meeting my needs. Again, that goes back to preference, right? It goes back to what makes them comfortable and how they feel. So I say all that to say, when you're training someone about authenticity in the workplace, then you have to ensure that they understand what authenticity means to them.
Would that curtail then sometimes people hiring certain people if your authentic self is going to make them feel discomfort in the workplace? Would they maybe not even hire you in the first place?
But they do that anyway. They do that anyway. And so here, and I'm glad you asked that, because that goes into the three different rounds of the interview. So if you notice, you have the first initial telephone interview, right? And it's like, oh, if they like what they hear on the phone, then they invite you in person. And then you have like this group panel interview. And it can either be like, oh, we love what you did. We enjoyed this. Was a great interview. Now, here's the third step. We want you to put together this project and do this project and then submit the project to me. We're going to review the project and we'll get back to you and let you know. All of that is testing your authenticity. All of that is testing to see how you're going to show up, if you can perform, but it's also testing, do I like what you do or do I feel like you fit in here? And I can speak to that because I was one of the people who used to sit in on these interviews. I was one of the people, as a school administrator, I was one of the people who had people go through these different rounds of interviews, but that wasn't coming from me. That was coming from higher up. So that was coming from the network. And the network where I would say, like, this person is really great. I think they'll be a great fit for the job. There's always someone else that's like, well, I don't know if I really like the way they responded to questions three or six or something like that, because it made me feel this way. So either way, they're still taking you through this firing round of, do I feel like something you say will offend me, or do I feel like you're gonna toe the line in the way that I want you to toe the line?
Well, okay, let's talk about one of the key frameworks or tools in the book, like the fight model. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So when we think about the fight model, the fight model comes in with you doing some self-inventory first. The fight model comes in with you understanding yourself, understanding what you're willing to accept, and understanding that how uncomfortable are you willing to be? Because in the fight model, you have to recognize that you have to make some changes in yourself, as well as some changes, whether it be you saying, you know what, I'm not willing to be here anymore. I'm not willing to be here anymore. Or you saying, I love this job and I love working here. So I'm going to fight for some change in here. And what that fight looks like is I'm going to speak up. I'm going to voice out. And I have to understand that not everyone's going to agree with me. And I think people get stuck. Not I think I know people get stuck when it comes to that fight because that fight is also connected to the fear. The fight is connected to fear. And fear is connected to your mindset because you have to think about, is this something that is physically going to harm me? Or am I fearful of this because I'm anxious about the results or how someone is going to perceive me and what I have to bring forward?
Mhm. And how do we begin healing from cultural betrayal with our own communities?
So cultural betrayal, you begin dealing with that and understanding who's around you. Um, the cultural betrayal runs so deep because systematically for generations we've been oppressed. And so when I talk about the cultural betrayal, I talk about whether it's in the workplace or in the community.
Mhm.
And in the workplace, you have individuals who you would think would say, you're a woman, you're an African American woman, we're both fighting the same struggle. Why are we fighting against each other instead of fighting with each other? And then you have that cutthroatness of people pinning you against each other. And so that's where it gets into the cultural betrayal. It gets into the cultural betrayal because you realize instead of us working together, we're working against each other. We're working against each other when we should be fighting for the same common goal. We should be fighting for better wages for all the Black women that's in this job. We should be fighting for better wages. We should be fighting for more time off when someone loses a loved one, more time off when someone is dealing with some maternal issues, more time off or even some type of adjustments for mental wellness. There's so many different things that we're battling as women and as as women of color in the workplace that we don't need to battle each other when we have so many others, our counterparts already fighting against us. And I talk about this in the book when I give the percentages of how many women of color feel comfortable enough to even mention that they have some type of mental illness going on or some type of invisible disability happening that they're experiencing for the sake of being acknowledged as either the angry Black woman, because that's the first thing people like when you begin to speak up or you're passionate about something. Oh, you're so angry, or you're aggressive, or you're unapproachable. And it's not that you're unapproachable; you just understand what you stand for.
Mm.
So when I talk about cultural betrayal, I talk about the aspect of feeling alone, even though you're in a circle of people who look like you, who may identify the same as you, but is not willing to show up. They're not willing to show up and put in the work to fight for the movement for the better sake of us all. Is more so a cutthroat. Uh, I got to worry about me. I can't worry about you type of thing.
Mm. Just
I
want to
told you it was deep. I told you it was deep.
do you forgive these people, or do you need to forgive these people, or do you just move on?
So growing up, there was always a saying I always heard, and I didn't really understand it, I guess, until I got older. My grandmother used to say, my mom, everybody used to say, you can lead a water to the horse, but you can't make them. You can lead the horse to the water, but you can't make them drink it. And so when you're navigating through those spaces, it's pretty much that. Like we can identify that, hey, this is what we have going on. This is what we need to do in order to make some changes happen. But you can't force anyone to join in your movement with you. And so that ties into the fight and understanding that not everyone is going to go along with you on your journey, and not everyone is meant to go along with on your journey. So it's up to the individual to understand that it may not necessarily be you, it's just where they are in their space. And maybe they don't have within them what it takes for for them to take that leap forward. You know, you don't know what someone else's situation is. So where you might be in a space that you like, hey, I'm ready to go. I can leave this behind. I've lined something up. I've polished my resume. I'm already putting out fillers. I have some interviews. I can leave this job now and be okay because I have a savings. That may not be someone else's reality. So you can't hold that against them. You can't hold that against them because your reality again is not someone else's reality. But what I will say is resilience is not an option. It's a necessity. And understanding what that resilience look like to you. And it's about understanding of what do I need to do to start getting my ducks in a row? How can I start, whether it is start putting money away, whether it is polishing up my resume. Don't be so comfortable that you feel like everything is going great right here, right now, so I'm not going to polish my resume. No, polish that resume because things can change in a moment. Things can change in a moment, and you may need to pivot. And if you're not brushing yourself up and preparing yourself, when that pivot comes, you will be lost and you will feel alone because the people that you felt so comfortable with before at work may not be there for you in the midst of that pit.
What a powerful conversation and discussion that we're having today. Thank you so much to our host, Ms. Carrillo and Senya. Now we want to kind of give some attention to the audience who may have some questions, some comments. They read the book. They want to talk to the celebrity in the room. If you have some things that you want to share with Senya, how this book has impacted your life, maybe some personal stories, please either raise your hand or you can just go ahead and come off of mute in a second when I give you the permission to. There you go. You can come off of mute and talk to us. Tell us who you are, where you're calling from, and what your question, comment is. Anyone can go. Don't all jump at once.
I see Michelle says it's overwhelming trying to explain your grief or making others feel comfortable being around you in your grief. And that is so true. And again, that's something I speak to in the book because not everyone grieves the same. Not everyone grieves the same. And when it's your grief, you really need time with it. In the beginning stages, everyone's around and like, I'm here if you need me. I'm here if you need me. But weeks go by, and then the people who feel that I'm here if you need me trickles down. Then months go by, and it's like, okay, once in a while I'm gonna check on you. Then when you get to the year stages, it's like you're not over that yet. Like it's been a while. It's time to move on. It's like this is my grief. This is my trench that I have to navigate right now. And so you can't rush anyone through that. And the triumph in that trench is you being able to get up every day and try to do your best to be your best, even if it is that even if your best is 15 minutes out of that day. But the fact that you got up, you washed your face, you put your feet on the ground, and you said, I'm going to try to do a little bit more today than I did yesterday. That's your triumph in that trench. Mm-hmm. It's you pushing yourself a little more, just trying to do a little more for the betterment of yourself and not worrying about what other people think. Because people can say, if it was me, I would, until it is them.
Oh.
100%.
Well, hello?
Oh,
yes.
So, Michelle?
I'm sorry. This is Michelle. A lot of you know that, this is an echo, a lot of you know that Senya is my sister. So when it was so difficult for me in the beginning, hold on 1 second. I gotta go in the room because
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it was just that it was so much. It was so hard in the beginning, and my family was trying so hard with everything, and I was just all over. So when I was one of the times I was in the hospital, in the mental hospital afterwards, after I lost my son, and a cousin of mine, me and her was so close. We talked every single day, every day on the phone. We loved each other so deep, so hard. She came to visit me and I started crying. She was like, "It's been 4 months and you still crying?" And it broke us. It broke us ever since then. And I never said to her that I was angry with her because of that. And for years, I did not talk to her for years. And then when I called her maybe about a year ago, and we started talking, she wound up losing my aunt had passed, her mother passed, and I was like, oh, I should say to her, it's 4 months, how you feel? My mother was like, definitely don't do that, definitely don't do that. But I just still had so much animosity, and it's like, even to this day, she was like, I didn't say that to you. I didn't say this. I said, yes, you did. She's like, you know what? And then she's a social worker. She doesn't have any children. She worked for ACS. So a lot of her own issues is that she blocks a lot of things and she try to work with things. But I didn't look at it at that time, that way at that time. And she was trying to explain to me. I maybe was just saying that because I didn't know what to say to you. But to this day, we are not back where we used to be. All because of that one little comment. And I miss that with her. But we just can't get back there. We just can't get back there. Because I feel like it's so exhausting trying to explain your grief to people. Because I was walking around sometimes like, well, I loved him so much. He was my only child. And why I have to say that to you? So then I got to the point where if you don't meet me where I'm at, then you just cut. I don't care. I don't care. It was so bad for so long. Like, if you was to see me today, you would not believe I was the person I was maybe when it first happened. For the first 3 years, it was really, really bad. And now I'm going through things with my job. And I just feel like the worst thing in my life has happened to me. And now on top of that, I got to deal with this nonsense, and it's sending me back into a deep zone. So when you start saying about the triumphs and the trenches, I just feel like these trenches keep coming in different aspects of my life. When the worst thing has happened to me, nothing else should still feel so bad, but that's my livelihood. That's my job. If I don't have that, I can't just walk away from that. How I'm gonna take care of his daughter? Because I don't care about me. I could sleep on the bench, but I got a granddaughter that I got to help take care of. So it's becoming even more difficult again for me.
Dr. Barnes, what's your advice on communicating your grief to the people around you, whether that be in the workplace or be to your family? Like, how do you consistently stay in active communication when you're grieving?
Great question. And I would definitely say, and this goes back to understanding that your grief belongs to you, and being okay with recognizing that you're going to lose some people, you're going to lose some friendships along the way. And so what I say is, I tell people that people love to ask you, oh, how you doing? Oh, I'm glad to see that you're smiling. It's like, don't say that. Say, I'm happy to share in a space with you today. And just because I'm smiling today doesn't mean, like I'm smiling right now, doesn't mean that I'm not crying later. And so when I coach individuals who are navigating through grief, I explain to them that, again, it's okay to just disengage and say, like, I'm not in a space right now.
For me,
and even with Michelle, she got to a space where it's like, how are you doing? Terrible.
Yeah,
terrible.
I'm
terrible right now.
I'm struggling. And they got
That's
to the point where they stopped asking me, and I was like, thank you very much. And like Senior was saying, how people they wean off from you. I like when they wean off from me. I don't want nobody calling me. I don't want nobody visiting me, and I'm happy. And I feel like the people who love me, they know I don't like it, and they don't call me. So when people call me, don't call me. When people call me on my birthday, on his birthday, on his birthday, it pisses me off. And I feel like you don't love me because you know I don't like it. So why are you doing it? So when
that is important.
No one, I'm good. And I feel like now I know you love me. Thank you. But everybody is different. Some people need that comfort. And I'm just the one I don't. I have my 6 friends and my family, my immediate family. I don't need anybody else to call me because it aggravates me and it brings up people want to start talking about certain things. But how you doing? I'm always effed up all the time. I don't need you to ask me those things. So just don't call me so we don't have to do the little small talk. And when you don't call me, I know you love me because you respecting the space that I'm in.
And
I'm so happy you said that.
That's another thing that we work through.
Yeah, definitely.
We work through identifying what it is that you need what is it that you need from people and sharing it to them. It's like, for me, this is what I need to heal. This is what I need from you to be okay. I need you to respect these boundaries. I need you to understand that I don't want you to call me on birthdays. I need you to understand that I'm not in a celebratory place of celebration of life right now. I need you to understand that I don't need you to just pop up at my house. I need you to understand that I'm not a person who wants you to hug me every minute if you see me crying. I'm a person who needs space, and I need you to respect that. This is not about you. This is about what I need. And if you love me, you will respect that.
Thank
Yes.
you.
I see somebody had their hand raised.
Yes, please join in the conversation.
I'm trying to speak. I can't even speak.
Oh, but never.
Yes,
Okay, I'm
so I
sorry.
have, hello,
Oh, I
everybody.
didn't know y'all could hear me. I didn't know y'all could hear me. But it's good to, I'm hoping my phone doesn't die. I just want to say that I have been reading the book, and I am encouraged by the book. Um, You know, Xena is a really wonderful warrior, and Michelle Barnes, one of my closest friends here. I just want to say that I'm encouraged every day by Michelle Barnes. I am a very, very optimistic person, and I realize that sometimes you got to understand how people feel. You got to understand that you got to give them space. You got to understand that people in this life deals with their own sorrows in so many different ways, and having that respect for that individual is very important. There's some people that are grieving, and we don't know because some people don't wish to open up and say much about it. I mean, I've had my mother, she's been in the hospital for a long time. She had 2 strokes, but and I could say to myself that yes, I can grieve in my own different ways. So it's just hearing the conversation and knowing that we all have our level of being able to grieve in our own unique way is so important. But I'm encouraged everybody, that's reading this book. Please read it. It's an awesome book. It's an amazing book. You will leave with that book feeling that you just you ate a whole big meal. That's how good this book is. I'm telling you, after reading this book, you will feel like, oh my God, I have read, and I feel so satisfied, and I'm no longer hungry. But I just want to say thank you, everybody. Thank you, Zena, for opening up this dialogue, and that's all. I'm gonna stop because my phone might die pretty soon, and I will listen right now. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks
Okay, thank
again.
you for sharing.
Thank you so
Oh,
much for sharing.
okay, have a good day.
Okay.
Peace.
You're
Yeah,
Thank
welcome.
you so much.
Can I unmute?
Hello?
Okay.
Got you, brother.
hello, so my name is Pamela. I know I have Peace, that's my acronym. I do know the Barnes family, they've known me for a long time. And I'm on my own healing journey. I've learned to grieve people that are alive, which scares me. Um, I do become reclusive when I'm in a stressful situation, and I found myself in a repetitive cycle from when I was very young, and in a situation that I could not handle, and I began to become judged on my reaction to what's happening to me versus you acknowledging what's being done to me. You understand? And so I've learned to cope with almost having mental funerals in my head for people that I love. But then, they somehow resurrect because you always want to be around these people because you really adore them. And it becomes this repetitive cycle of, and because of the traumas from before, I didn't heal from them. And so that's what I've learned to talk to my big sis here, Zenya. On these things. I call her and I'm like, listen, okay, because I'm about to blow up. And it takes a lot of spirituality, my faith in God, as well as committing myself, to my healing. I'm committed to me now. I put myself first. As far as my I don't want you to judge me on my reaction. So let me heal myself so I'm not reacting to something that happened 20 years ago plus today, because you're not aware that I'm still harboring all this stuff. And so I thank you so much for this dialogue, Michelle. You know I love you. I can't believe I see Mom here. Hi, Georgette.
Speaking of grieving and understanding that grief looks differently for everyone, and you brought up a very important point that sometimes we're grieving relationships of people that have not died, right? And just passing it over to Dr. Barnes, how do you manage like grieving someone that has transitioned on to the next life, and then also grieving relationships that are currently still here on this earthly plane, but you know that that relationship is seemingly dead?
Thanks for asking that, Pam. Thanks for sharing. And so she knows I talk about this all the time, grieving the living. Um, a lot of the times we hold on to relationships based off of past experiences. And we feel like, oh, at one point this person was there for me. So you want to hold on to that relationship based on that past experience. But now they're doing so much harm to you. And the reason why they can continue to do this harm to you because they feel like you're never going to go anywhere. And that can be whether it's a relative, that could be relevant, it's an intimate relationship or work relationship, no matter whatever it is, you can, it's all about you understanding the space that you're in. It's all about understanding the space that you are in and recognizing that your healing journey is about your forgiveness to yourself. And it's not about your forgiveness to the other person. And but I know for many individuals, many individuals think that when you say forgiveness, you're forgiving the person that offended you or you're forgiving the person that harmed you. But that's not what you're forgiving. You're forgiving yourself for not being able to change the things that happened to you. You're forgiving yourself for either being fearful of speaking up or being fearful of not reacting in a certain manner. And that comes along with age, that comes along with self-inventory, that comes along with experience, right? And wisdom. At a time when something happened, you may not know how to react, or you may not know to who to reach out to. But then you also have to understand that everybody enters this world, enters this space with their own type of trauma. So the person that you may be connecting to or trauma bonding with or even reaching out to may have had a similar experience and they didn't know how to deal with it when it happened to them. So they are either holding you accountable to a level that they wouldn't hold themselves to, or they're just giving you the best advice of what they had or what they went through. So if I was in a traumatic relationship or even with myself, right, in the midst of when I first was diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis, and they were saying that I wasn't going to have that much time, to live, and my health was deteriorating. And I just was like, I can still do this. I can still do this. I can go to work, and I was fighting against myself to prove to somebody else who really didn't care about what I was going through, to prove that I was able to do something that they were feeling like I couldn't do anymore. And in that fight, after a while, I had to realize I was making myself sicker because I was trying to prove something to somebody else who did not care about me at all. And then once I took that step back and started reflecting on, well, why am I doing this? I realized, you know what? I need to focus on my health. I need to focus on my mental space. I need to focus on the good things that happen. I need to focus on the people who mean me well. And once I started to tighten that circle, I was okay with giving that relationship up. I was okay with transitioning from that workspace. I was okay with the things that started to happen in my life because I realized once I started focusing on the positive things started happening to me and for me. And so I look at Pam now and I look at where she came from in the beginning when she was like pop or pothead Pam. and to us having the discussions and us and coaching her and us just talking about understanding that, doing that spiritual journey, doing that self-reflection journey, and understanding, okay, this isn't my locus of control. These are the things that I can't control. I can't control anybody else's reactions. So I'm going to focus on my reactions. I'm going to focus on the access that I give other people to me. And so that's what I say to individuals. I say, when you're dealing with grieving the living, focus on the things that you can control. Focus on the access that you give people to your emotional well-being, to your spiritual well-being, to your whole heart, physical well-being. Focus on that, and then limit the access to the people who are not willing to respect your boundaries and mean you any good. Sometimes you got to cut those ties. It's easier said than done. It's going to be hard. It's going to be harmful. It's not harmful, but it's going to be hurtful because you feel like, I love this person so much and I want them around you. But if every time you're around that person, it takes you to this deep, dark, negative space, then you can't be there. You can't be around that person. And whether it's that job, whether it is that husband, that wife, that sister, that brother, that aunt, that uncle, whoever it is, that friend that you grew up with for forever, like whatever it is, you have to understand that if you don't put yourself first, nobody else is going to.
And that's a fact on that. Miss Tara Lewis, floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Tara Lewis. I'm also a gun violence mother. I'm a survivor of gun violence. I've met Xenia and, of course, Michelle Barnes years back, and I have become one of her biggest cheerleaders. I'm so proud of her and all of the work she does. And any way she needs me, I'm always here for her. I'm here to read just a passage from her book that resonates within me. I'm sorry, can y'all bear with me real quick? It dealt with the process of requesting workplace accommodations is akin to navigating a bureaucratic minefield. What should be straightforward process of identifying needs and implementing solutions often dissolved into a Kafka's nightmare of paperwork, delays, subtle or not so subtle discouragement. As a trauma coach and leader of multiple gun violence survivor groups, I have encountered countless parents returning to work after the murder of a loved one or even their child, a grieving mom and gun violence survivor with PTSD who works in a high-functioning city agency, shared the overwhelming stress of being surrounded by forced joy in the workplace. When she requested a quieter workplace to help manage her symptoms, she was met with a barrage of forms, each more intrusive than the last. It felt like I was being put on trial, the mother recalls. Every request was met with skepticism, as if I was trying to game the system rather than simply do my job effectively. Being forced to sit amongst individuals, consistently celebrating birthdays, office baby showers, their children's accomplishments, continuously being asked to smile or partake in small talk, and unnecessary meetings that trigger emotional breakdowns. I was drowning in a balance that had no regard for my mental well-being. Now, I can relate to that so much because after my son was murdered in 2019, the one thing that they really don't have in the workplace is time off for people that deal with these tragedies. You know how they may have maternity leave or, sickness leave, but when it comes to mental health leave because of trauma like this, there is none. So I was forced to go back to work, of course, much sooner than I would have liked. I don't even think that I was off work for 2 weeks. And I was a train conductor. So the one thing that you have as a train conductor is you're in this private box, all day operating, and you're just left to yourself. And the whole time that, I was on that train going stop to stop in that box, it's like everything triggered me. And I'm in this train and I just feel like, how you see yourself, like you just want to scream because number one, you don't want to be there. You know that you're not ready to be there. You know that you really shouldn't be there. And then you're responsible for everybody on that train. So now I have to pay attention to everything keen while I'm literally dying inside. So I wish that there was a way that they could implement something to where we could get assistance in, family death leave, anything to where you could get the time to get your mind right. Because when you don't, it makes the situation so much worse, because everything around you becomes a trigger. Even the passenger saying good morning, or you see people walking with their kids, and then you start to remember when you used to walk with your same kids. Now, it's been years, and with a lot of help, and Coach Barnes has been exceptional in helping, and all of her books and her workshops, and has been a safe haven for me to help me get to where I'm at now. But I really appreciate the fact that she put this, like, she made this chapter in this book about that, because a lot of people don't think about that, or how the PTSD of either gun violence, death, anything hurts everybody when they're in high functioning jobs. But that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you
I
so
love you, Tara. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much for sharing, Tara. And that leads me to my next question for you, Dr.
Real quick before you go in that, I just want to, because I would be remiss if I didn't say that in connection with this, I am working on a bill that I want to introduce so that we can make those changes. Because if we just go through this in silence, nothing will ever change. And so, in order to change that, I'm strapping up my boots, and I'm hitting the pavement, and I'm working on a bill so that that can be changed. Because no parent should be forced to show up and forcefully show up and have to grieve and be celebratory to someone else's joy when they're trying to just hold on to get through the day because they know that their bills still have to be paid. So there's work to do, but I just want you to know, Tara, I'm working on it. Go ahead, Life.
Well, I mean, you already answered the question I was going to ask, so that that worked well. So let me kind of reframe the question here, because it's really about leadership, right? And how we as leaders, people that organizations, whether you are working in someone's organization, or you're myself that runs your own organization, how can we as leaders make sure that we are standing in the gap when things like this is happening, right? Like, there's oftentimes that as you spoke about in your interview, that it's out of your control, right? Like, I'm just the person that's following the rules. So if I'm in that position, what can I do to make sure the people that I'm working with feel supported?
I believe the best way to do that is to not be condescending, to actually be willing to meet them where they are, but then also to be mindful to understanding you need to meet with your HR team and see what you guys can do, and in terms of, like, whether it is getting people to put time together in the pool to help offer more time, whether it is stifling that person's schedule, whether it is saying, you know what, I understand that. How about, for the next 6 weeks or so, maybe you don't come in every day. Maybe you work on projects that you can do virtually, so that you can do at home, and we can do virtual check-ins. So if I can update you on things that I need to get done. Not everyone's job has to be hands-on in person. And when someone is grieving, sometimes they need to grieve in their bare body suit at home. That does not mean that they're not doing the work, but sometimes you need to just say, you know what, I'm going to drop down, and I'm going to pray, and I'm going to cry, and I'm going to scream, and I'm going to do this for 30 minutes or so, but then I'm going to get up and I'm going to check these emails. Then I'm going to get up and I'm going to, then I'm going to get up and I'm going to dress from the top up. I'm going to get dressed and I'm going to join this Zoom meeting, or I'm going to join this Teams meeting. And then when I get off, I'm going to go back to crying, because that's what I need to do. But, that allows you that allows you to do what you need to do for your employer, but it also allows you enough space and enough space so that you can mentally be able to show up, because that mask of grief is so heavy. That mask of grief is so heavy, and people don't understand the cracks. It's almost like you're constantly putting crazy glue on it. For those of you who get their nails, if anyone who gets their nails done, if you ever have on chips and the nail broke like just down right by the skin, and you try to crazy glue it, and then the crazy glue is burning, but you know, like, oh my god, I got 2 more days before my nail tech is there, and you just trying to hold it with a band-aid, nail glue, and everything. That's what those cracks are like daily when you're grieving, because you're constantly trying to hold on to get things done. And sometimes you just at a space where you just can't get anything done. But if you have an employer who is willing to meet you where you are and understand that, you know what, I'm going to put you on this project, but the only thing in this project I need you to do is check your emails and work on this plan and email it back to me.
Mhm.
I don't need you to be face to face right now because you can't perform face to face right now. I need you to know, or even on the days that you're in, I need you, okay, Sunshine Committee. I know we coming around. You got a baby shower coming. I know you're, don't stop by Miss Barnes. Don't stop by Miss Barnes Anderson just with no card asking her to donate to the Sunshine Committee. She's not in space right now. Like, have realistic conversations with the people that work with you and the people that work for you. Because guess what? You don't want to wait until grief is at your door to have to understand how painful it is.
Yeah. And I appreciate that, as you being in a leadership position and having served in those
I
positions.
just wanted to say something as far as like, and kind of know the person. Everybody is so different. As Senior was always telling me, everybody is so different, because you have some people who need you to hug them when they cry. I'm not one, but I'm just saying some people need that. Some people need they want to participate. They want to go. They want to go to the. I seen mothers that we have worked with that come out after a month, but they can't be alone. They don't want to be alone. So you have to know the people that you work with. Or when I say work with, it doesn't even have to be in that space. It could just be like the person persona at the work office. So if you can approach a person and be like, we're doing a collection. They want to be involved. Some people don't. And then some people look at it like, oh, you're not even coming to me because it was a point where I didn't even want to have friends that had kids. Like, if you have a child that's living, I don't want to be your friend. Because what do parents do? All we do is talk about their accomplishments, right? I only have one child. I don't have no other kids to talk about accomplishments about. But you have to know the person that you dealing with. And Senior tell me that all the time, because she said you're not celebratory. You don't want to celebrate this, celebrate that. But other people do. You can't be like that, And I have to step back sometime and I go, I know, and I'll send that to that person that I know that I love, that celebrates their birthday, and I'll send that to them, because some mothers like to have that they lost their child and they like that remembrance. I'm not one. I'm just saying some people are. And she told me that, but you're not like that, but they are. And I have to, work with people in that space. I remember when I went back to work, my supervisor said to me, you lost your son, you have more empathy for the type of work that I do, because I work in accommodations, helping people with reasonable accommodations. And I was like, what are you talking about? I always had empathy for people. And now I get what he's saying. I get it, because I go hard for the people, because I know what they're going through. I'm near, I'm in it, I'm in that trench. And I get it, and I get frustrated when I see other people, managers, and I'm not going down that line with you and how you did me. I'm not doing it. Because and I get what he's saying. God bless him, he passed. But I'm just saying I get what he's saying now.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Michelle. And, even to that point, Dr. Barnes, just gonna bring up a little personal story between us, because that's how we do things. If you guys didn't miss my story, I've been working with Senior for a long time. Now going close to over a decade. We got 2 years on it. And there was a point in time where I actually experienced my own grief. My great grandmother passed while I was in the middle of teaching. I was in the middle of working, and I got that call. She was 101 years old, so she had lived a full life. However, grief doesn't affect me the way that it affects other people, right? I am always very high energy. And I remember just sending a message and saying, hey, my mothership died, but I'm not going home, right? Like I need to finish out my day, and I will deal with this when I go home. And to Michelle's point, just knowing the person that you're working with, Dr. Barnes is like, okay, well, let me know, when it's going to happen, but always knowing that she needed to slow me down, right? Because if I kept going, I was never going to grieve appropriately. I was never going to deal with the trauma that it was losing someone that raised me, right? So, what tactics do you have for individuals that grief might not present itself like a breakdown moment? It's an individual that is high energy like myself is like, I'm just going to keep working because that'll keep my mind off of it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm glad you brought that story up, right? Because what Kayla doesn't know is on the back end, I was going to the other leadership team members and I was saying, don't put anything else on her plate. I was saying, what she loves is technology. So on her schedule, that should be the only thing that's on her schedule. Don't put her on lunch duty. Don't put her on recess. Don't put her on anything else because she needs a space that she can go and feel the things that she's feeling. And that's what I say. That's what I say to people who are high energy. It's like, it's okay to feel the things that you're feeling. It's necessary for you to cry. Crying is not a bad thing because crying allows you to shed some of that weight that you're carrying that you may not even know that you're carrying. Because if not, that high energy at some point is going to boil over, and it's going to boil over in the least expected time, in the most inappropriate place. You may be by yourself, find yourself having a complete breakdown, complete panic attack. You could be in the middle of the street, nobody's with you, and it's just like, wait, I don't even know why I'm crying. Right? So it's important for you. It's important for you to take time, whether it be you taking that time by yourself or finding someone that you're comfortable with, that you can take that time. Like for me, I have my best friend Khadija. She's not gonna call us today, but we both know each other. We can tell by our voices, oh, something is wrong, and we just pop out at each other's house. And it's like, I don't have to talk, and she don't have to talk. We just know to be in the room for the other person. If at any given moment, one of us need to start crying, the other person is there. And it's like, we got the remote control, we flicking through the TV, and it's whatever. And it's like, I'm not going to ask you no questions. Feel what you need to feel. And I think it's so important to have, especially if you're a high energy person, because high energy people often are super high energy because that's their coping mechanism of not having to deal with whatever it is that's going on. Because often they found themselves feeling like their voices on mute, or people wasn't willing to understand or meet them where they were, or they felt like people were always dismissing how they were feeling. And so it was like, you know what? I'm just going to be happy all the time, and I'm going to keep this energy up. That way I don't have to worry about anybody disappointing me. I don't have to worry about someone not showing up for me the way I want them or expect them to show up for me, because I'm not expecting anything from them. But even the strongest person gets weak at some time. And there's nothing wrong with being weak. There's nothing wrong with needing help. It's all about understanding who that circle is around you, who will be strong for you when you need to be weak. And it's so important to identify who those people are, because 9 times out of 10, they are experiencing the same thing as you. They feel like they don't have people who can be strong for them when they're weak, or they're so used to being the strong person, they don't know how to ask for help. And so I say this to say, identifying who your person or who your people are that you can say like, hey, today is one of those days. I need to feel weak today. I need to go through my emotions today. I don't need you to ask me any questions. I don't need you to talk to me. I just need you to be here for me. And sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes for other people, what they need is to talk through what they're going through in the moment. That's okay too. But making sure that the person that you're talking to is not a yes person. making sure the person that you're talking to is someone that's going to say, okay, we're going to hear this out. We're going to vent. We're going to say what you need to say. But now we're going to come up with some solutions of how we can make this situation better. The problem with having yes people around you is 9 times out of 10, they're not trying to help you out of the situation because they're going through their own trauma. So I need somebody to trauma bond with. So I need you to still be going through something so that I could be okay with what I'm going through. So you want to make sure that you're not trauma bonding with people, because when you trauma bond and then you start to heal and that person didn't heal yet, you start resenting because you're like, oh my God, I don't want to answer the phone for them. I don't feel like answering the phone because I don't feel like hearing what they're going through. They always going through something. But that's because the bond that you made was based on trauma, and both of you weren't at a place where you were willing to work on yourself. So make sure, I'm saying this to say, make sure that you are identifying people who is going to show up for you, even when you're not willing to act for them to show up.
Thank you so much for that. Tammy, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tammy Brunson. I knew Michelle for a very long time. I saw her siblings, but they were younger than her. But I'm so thankful and blessed to know the Bond Anderson family because they have been a blessing to me. And doing different books that Dr. Barnes have written helped me to cope with a lot of different things in my life that I didn't even know before my son died that I had this trauma, that I had certain things. So it helped me to cope with it. But one thing Michelle said was empathy. I always had a strong empathy with people. But what happened once my son was, I felt like injustice. Like so many people have if you did something to someone, I'm really pissed that you did it. Because I was always the type of person that always cared for someone, always wanted the best for someone, always would help someone, even in the workplace. So when I saw another person deliberately hurt someone, I'm like, why did you do that? What was the purpose of you doing things like that? And I realized I had to step back a little bit. And I just recently started stepping back a little bit because I was getting mean. Like I would tell you off, like you was a trifling type of person. And that's unprofessional in the workplace. But I had to step back and realize everybody's not at the same place that you are. Everybody doesn't have the love that you have love for people. And I had to really deal with that. Like, oh wow. And my son kept saying, "Mom, everybody's not like you. Everybody don't see like you see." I mean, but why would they do that? Why would they be so unkind? And I had that problem with the problem I had was people of color. Why are we hurting one another? Like, are you serious? Don't you see what's going on? And we hurting one another? And it was at the workplace. And then by me being a union rep, I was like, you just lied on this young lady? And then you want to come sit in my face? Hi, Tammy, how you doing? Get out my office. I couldn't hold it in. But with the tools that Dr. Barnes is giving out, it's helping me to cope and do those things. So I want to thank you on that. And Michelle, I love you. So I want to thank you as well there's a lot of groups out there, but you have to find a group that is authentic, that really cares. It's not about numbers or it's not about money or what you can do for them. This group that I am blessed to be in has fed my soul. So I am blessed for my soul to be fed. So I have actually drifted away. Started like my son said, "Oh my, you on Facebook, you unface people." Yes, I did. This year was a year of stepping back. No, I'm not doing this. No, I don't want to be a part of that. I had to delete different things and say, no, I'm not doing that. Because I knew, how can I put it? I knew you didn't mean the best. And you only saw me or any other person as a step up to use. And I can't do that because I'm not a good person when I feel that way. Like I'm really a bad person. Like I really will tell you off. you might have to call the cops. But but you understand what I'm saying? So I want to thank you, Dr. Barnes, for all that you have given me the tools to cope going forward. That's all I had to say.
Well, Tammy, I thank you for
Well,
allowing.
Tammy, I thank you for
I thank you for
allowing.
allowing me to be So I thank you for accepting me into your heart and allowing me to be there to support you. It has definitely been a journey. When we first reconnected, I said we can't have you getting arrested. I need you to work. I need you to work on these tools, and I'm happy to hear that you are working through your fight stage where you're knowing to disengage from people who do not mean you well, and you're knowing your triggers and knowing how to remove yourself from situations so that you can, as Pam said, create your mental funerals for those people that you need to grieve so that you can be the best version of yourself. Because right now you're in the phase of loving yourself through your trauma. And that's the most important thing. That's you triumphing in your trench.
I just, again, I wanted to say with Pam, when she said that mental funeral, that's exactly how I felt. I mean, I didn't have a name to put to it, but that's exactly how I felt about my cousin. That when we went through, where I haven't talked to her for years and we still don't really talk, it's like, oh my God. And I mean, and now we passed it to the point where we talk, but it's nothing like it used to be. And I feel like, damn, Pam, you just gave me a name for that. That's like a mental funeral, and it's horrible. Like, it's horrible when you love somebody so deeply to the point where you feel like they never loved me like I love them. And I felt like that, after I lost my son. It was some people like, I started listening to Kelly Rowland's song Rose Colored Glasses. I think that's who wrote it, but it was like, who made it. And I'm like, damn, my son died for me to really see the people who, and I'm not even talking about family members, but just even relationships, whether it was with somebody you love, like a male, and damn, he ain't really love me like that. Now that my son is going, I can see it. I see it. And it's like, it took my son to die for me to really see certain things. And now that I'm going through things with my job, it's like I got to take them to court. I mean, was an EO actually you discriminate against them, like I don't my rights. I gotta take you to court, EEOC, take you to 5 Pearl Street. That's crazy, and it's stressful. And it's like my son is dead. I don't need to deal with that. And then it's just like I'm dealing with both of them again because it's almost like it's a trigger to bring me back to where I started. Because then I started telling them it was in emails, and my sister was, you can't do that. I was like, y'all killed my son. Y'all murdered my son. Because if you would have hired him, he would have been working. He wouldn't have been walking home from my mother's house to go home, to come home. Y'all murdered him because it was all because, and it was other little things. Like, come on, stop coming. And commissioner, you should hire on a. He came in the office. Yo, what's up with the dude? He up there talking to my time. What's out your way trying to figure out, let me see where he could be. Like, what's going on? And then y'all don't have him. And now I hate y'all. I hate them. And it was like, you stop saying that to them. Because I'm like, I hate y'all. Y'all murdered my son. And now y'all, and it's just crazy. And I got to deal with all of that. And then you want me to be nice? How you doing? I'm struggling.
Those are real raw and honest feelings, and you're definitely not alone in that. There's many people who can't put words to that, and that ties into the invisible disability, right? Because you can't see that on a person. You can't see that on a person. That's on the inside. Those are the emotions. Those are the feelings that a person is experiencing. And I always tell people, you never want to be someone's last straw. You never want to be someone's last straw. So you have to be mindful of the words you put out, and understand that impact is so much greater than intent. Impact is so much greater than intent. So I say that to say it's so important for us it's so important for us to name the fact of invisible disabilities being triggering. It's so important for us to challenge the status quo. It's so important for us to challenge organizations, leaderships, about making sure that you're not doing more harm to your staff by red taping them because you can't see the trauma that they're experiencing. And I see somebody else have their hands up.
Yes, we're going to give our last question to Ms. D. Georgette Barnes, and she's going to close us out.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for sharing. And Xenia, my baby sis, you know I love you, and words just can't express how proud I am of you, of everything that you have accomplished in life, and even more so, how much you have accomplished since your illness. I mean, to just be able to pull your boots up and say, you know what, this is my life now, and go out and get your doctorate. I'm so proud. I'm so proud to call you my sis. I'm so proud to tell everyone.
Make me cry.
Okay, I'm sorry. You had mentioned a moment ago about how you could be the strong one in the family, and I feel that I've always held that position out of the three of us, me, you, and Michelle. And I've just always been there for everyone in the family, period. Anyone gets sick, I'm at their house taking care of them.
Mm-hmm.
Nursing everyone back to health, from uncles, aunts, grandparents, everything. And even when you first got sick, right there. When Laquan passed, right there. And I've never truly dealt with my grief of the passing of my nephew. I really don't talk about it because whenever it comes to mind, in a space like this, Michelle is on a call, and I don't want her to relive those moments again. I don't want to be the person that bring that to her forefront again, because she relives it every day, every time she opens her eyes. But the pain and the anger, the frustration that I feel from October 25th, 2017, I don't know how to deal with it. I've done my best to hold my head high and just move through the day, make sure things got done. And then you got sick. Lorraine passed away, who was my go-to person. Anytime I felt that I need to let it out, I would always go to Lorraine and talk to her, but she died. And now I feel like I have no one that I can talk to. And I've just been extremely depressed for months. I won't leave the house. I won't talk to anyone. I won't take no calls. I won't make no calls. I'm going through so much with my job now. My daughter moved to Atlanta over a year, and I haven't even been to see her. I haven't been to her house once yet. Oh gosh, I'm angry, and I've gotten sick where I have an illness that's uncurable. I never even heard of it before until I got diagnosed with it, stiff person syndrome. For years, for decades, I've been experiencing extreme back pain, and everyone, oh, it's arthritis. Oh, you'll be okay. You'll be fine, to where I can't walk. And now it's gotten so bad to where most days I can't move. I can't sit too long. I can't lay. It's so much. And I feel like some of my issues are small compared to others. Like, my sister needed a double lung transplant, and I'm complaining about pain. Someone has to die in order for her to live. That's a lot for a person to have to go through. Oh gosh, when you said the word, you know, you're weak, you can be weak. And that's what I finally realized. That's what I feel. I feel weak. I feel exhausted. I feel like I have nowhere to go, nowhere to turn, just angry. I can't get through a day. The medication that they gave me for depression and anxiety, it just make me sleepy, make me not want to do anything. I just feel numb to where nothing matters. I'm just, I don't know. I don't know. All I know is I don't want to feel like this anymore. But it's so hard to pull myself out of this depression. I've been trying for months and I just can't pull myself out of it. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm glad that I spoke because I don't think I even said these words out loud. I just feel them. So thank you for this.
Thank you for sharing. And we're gonna work on getting you some help. We're in this together, so it's difficult for us to lean on each other and share our pain and our hurt. But what I want you to do, I want you to know that I'm always here. And when I say we're going to get you some help, we're going to get you a therapist that you can talk to, so that you don't feel like you're pushing your sickness or your trauma onto me, but even though that you're not. But I know that I'm not what you need right now. You need me just to be your sister. And so I'm just going to be your sister, and we're going to get you some help so that you can talk through the things that you need to talk through, that you don't feel like you can talk with on us, because right now I need you to be in the season of me. And by the season of me, I need you to be in the season of your mental and emotional growth for you. You can't be strong for me if you can't be strong for you. So I need you to get you together so that we can continue to be strong for one another. So that's what your focus is going to be on for the rest of this year. The rest of this year, your focus is going to be on getting you strong again for you, before you think about showing up for everybody else. It's three of us. We take turns. It's three of us. Go ahead, Kayla. I'm going to kick it back off to you.
This has been a phenomenal experience, and shout out to everyone that was vulnerable and open and shared their stories and bared their hearts during this time. We want to close off the right way and in a way that you can walk away with feeling as empowered and healthy and get the tips that you need to move forward. So I'm going to kick it right back to Dr. Barnes in just a second, but I do want to prepare our audience because I told you at the beginning we'd be taking a group picture. So while she is talking to you about our closing and the exciting things that we have moving forward, please make sure that you're camera ready. I will know that you are ready for this group picture by you cutting your camera on. And when she is done, she will close us out. We'll take the picture and then we'll leave. Sound good? All right, Dr. Barnes, right back to you.
Thank you. So again, I just want to say thank you to everyone for showing up and sharing in this space. I always want to make sure that I'm creating a safe space for everyone to be vulnerable, for you to show up and be the warrior that you are in the midst of your trenches, because we will triumph. I want to say thank you to my childhood friend, Lynetta, although we all call her Siobhan. Siobhan and I have been together since, I want to say, we were about 9 years old. And when I say out of sight, out of doesn't mean out of mind. That's what Siobhan is what I mean. We grew up, she moved away, and we hadn't seen each other in so many years. But then when we reconnected, it was like no time has passed. And I really want to take the time to thank her, because she has been reaching out to me and just checking on me. And because that's what I mean by knowing your tribe, without even knowing what she has been doing for me, and I for her. And so it's so important that you make sure that you are willing and open to letting people in when you feel vulnerable. Because if you don't speak up about what you're going through, then people don't know how to show up for you. And in order for you to be able to be that warrior that you were meant to be, you have to know that sometimes you have to put yourself first. And if you're going to walk away with anything, if you're going to walk away with anything else, I want you to walk away with understanding that you have the rights to your own story. You can rewrite it. You can restructure it. You can reset, revamp, and relaunch your life. And that is the pure root at moving from trauma to triumph, and triumphing through your trench. Understanding that you, as Kayla would say, are the main character. You are the main character of your story, and you have something to tell. Can nobody tell your story better than you? Can nobody tell your story better than you? So if you don't like what's going on, rewrite your story and embrace in the small wins so that you know that you are triumphing along the way.
Powerful words by the Senya Barnes. Can we get a round of applause? Come up, Mew. Give her those flowers. We need to hear that. I'm going to now make sure, okay, we're going to give everybody a couple of seconds to cut their cameras on because we're going to take our picture.
Yes, grab your book, grab your book, grab your book.
I'm having problems with, please forgive me. I'm trying to figure out how to do this because I've been having it on a mirror thing and now I can't even see where I'm at. So please forgive me.
It's all right. It's all right.
I'm like, I'm not, listen, now I can see everybody. I can see everybody. I'm like, hey, Nayoka. Hey, mommy. Hey, Nayoka. Hey, mommy. Hey, Nayoka. I can see everybody. It means so much to me. I'm getting feedback, but you guys don't understand the joy that I'm experiencing right now. I am who I am because all of you are always willing to show up for me in all different capacities. And I just want you to know that I appreciate it. You could be anywhere on Sunday doing anything right now, but you decided to spend your time with me, and I truly, truly appreciate it. And I see those books coming up. Yes.
Oh, let me get my book.
Yeah, grab your books, everyone. Okay, so here's the thing. I work with technology.
Oh, shoot.
I trust it. So I'll be taking the picture in 3 different ways. One with the phone, one on the screenshot, and one with the Zoom. Okay, so at least I'm gonna have it. If one fails, I have 2 other ways that I can get this photo. Okay.
Nayoka, don't worry. Your